That was my reality a few months back. We often don't listen to the signals sent by our brains. I made that mistake, and I jeopardized my entire existence. My brain had always sent me signals in the form of headaches for as long as I can remember. But last July, I had an incident where a certain headache stayed with me for 3 days. 1st August 2021. My first appointment with the neurologist. I went grudgingly because who goes to a neurologist for a headache, right? As the protocol, he prescribed a whole battery of tests. A variety of blood tests, MRIs, CT scans, CT angios, the whole shebang. 3rd August, my results came in. I was diagnosed with an aneurysm in the carotid artery of my brain in the ophthalmic region. For those who do not know what an aneurysm is, because Gray's Anatomy and The Good Doctor will not give you this particular information, this is what it is. And this, ladies and gentlemen, was my aneurysm. I don't miss that bad boy. We consulted with several neurosurgeons and were left thoroughly confused as to what would be the best way forward. Some suggested immediate surgery, as in a craniotomy, while others advised us against it. But there was one common thread in the prognosis. If the aneurysm were to rupture, given its sheer size and its sensitive location, I would not come out of that situation unscathed. I was facing permanent paralysis, permanent blindness, coma, and death. I was living with a ticking time bomb in my head. I could not process this, and I went off the grid. I literally locked myself up in my room. I cut myself off from my husband, my 2 little boys, and I sat in front of the altar trying to process this, trying to come to terms with the fact that I, who had taken such pride in my good health and healthy lifestyle choices, was actually going through this. I tried to pray. I tried to find hope. I tried to attract some kind of positivity, but the more I tried, the deeper I got sucked into this quagmire of utter despair. Finally, through one of my colleagues, we were referred to a special category of medical practitioners called an interventional radiologist. We went to him. And for the first time in weeks, I smiled. There seemed to be a little ray of light, a slight sliver of hope at the end of the tunnel. We were advised to opt for a procedure that would insert a flow diverter that would cut off the blood supply to the aneurysm. But we needed to initiate this at the earliest. Through the intervention of some amazing people at my workplace, the humongous paperwork happened. The follow-up tests happened. And finally, on the 26th of September 2021, I was admitted in the hospital. 27th September 2021, D-Day. Now, a procedure like this normally takes 1.5 to 2 hours. In my case, it took a little more than 6 hours because of some anatomical difficulties. Anyways, the procedure was a success. A flow diverter was successfully deployed through a catheter which was passed into my body through an incision in my groin and which went up right to my brain. After the procedure, I regained consciousness, but I kept throwing up through the night. My body was sore. I had 4 cannulas in my hands. Blood was being transfused through a cannula in my leg because I had lost a considerable amount of blood, which I guess is routine in a procedure like this. The deep vein thrombosis pump made it impossible for me to move. Let's just say I was very uncomfortable. 29th September 2021. I woke up. The nurses came in to check up on me. They started asking me routine questions. I thought I was answering them. She didn't understand what I was saying, and I was thoroughly irritated. Then another nurse came in, and she too started asking me a couple of questions. She asked me my husband's name. I could not recall his official name. I could not answer her. I told myself I was still groggy and this would pass. She came with a certain form and she asked me to sign my name. Now, I knew what my signature looked like, but I could not replicate it. I could not even grip the pen and I could not see where she was pointing to on the form. By now, ladies and gentlemen, I was beginning to panic. The doctors were summoned. They came in. They too asked me the routine questions. One of them pointed to his wristwatch and asked me to tell the time. I could not. I was so relieved that my husband had come in by them. But unfortunately, by that time, I had lost my speech, my vision, the motor functions in my entire right side of my body, and coherence of thought. I was having a really bad day. A clot had formed inside the flow diverter and had cut off the blood supply to the various parts of my brain. Ladies and gentlemen, I was having an ischemic stroke. I was rushed back into the OT. I felt so helpless and scared and alone at that time because I could not even express how frightened I was. I felt the numerous needles that were inserted into various parts of my body. I even felt the sharp, painful incision that was made in my groin yet again. And while all this was happening, I literally saw a darkness coming towards me. And I went into that darkness willingly because it was painless, peaceful, calm, and inviting. I went into that darkness willingly, and yet again, ladies and gentlemen, I went off the grid. I was put on life support. 30th September 2021, after almost 2 days on the life support, I finally regained consciousness once again, and this time my room was filled with doctors who kept saying things like, "You are so brave, you are a fighter, you fought like a tigress to come out of the ventilator." And for the life of me, I could not fathom what they were saying, because what fight? I did not fight. I had gone willingly into that darkness, into that inviting darkness. A couple of days later, while I was still in the ICU, I looked at my phone and I saw the numerous messages that had gone back and forth in the various WhatsApp groups that I'm a part of. I never knew that I had so many well-wishers. My colleagues stepped by to visit me at the hospital, and then I came to know that they had stormed the heavens with their prayers. My family, through the various prayer groups, had reached out to people to pray for me across the globe. My husband would hold my hand every single night before he left me at the hospital, and he would pray. And he's not an overtly prayerful person. Slowly, I realized that I did not fight, but the prayers of my family, friends, and colleagues had become my armor. Those prayers had stopped me from going further into that darkness that I had actually surrendered to. 15th October, 2021. After 3 weeks in the ICU, I was finally released from the hospital. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand here in front of you, a living testament to the miracles that can happen when we believe. I was weak in my belief, but the strong belief of my friends and family is the reason that I'm standing here in front of you sharing my story. I was literally put back into the grid because of the positive power and the sheer force of heartfelt prayers. In my search for hope, it kept deluding me initially. Now I know that even when hope is frail, it is hard to kill. I am humbled because I never knew that I am so loved. To say that I have a completely different outlook on life is but stating the obvious. I am here having made a full recovery. I am here feeling blessed, confident, aspiring and dreaming, but most importantly, living. Because when you believe, somehow you can and you will. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being an amazing audience.